Welcome to An Overthinker's Almanac. I'm Jared, and today we're going to investigate how imperfection can amplify believability and trust. Trust me, I'm not perfect. How admitting our flaws and sharing opposing perspectives increase our influence. Imagine shopping for a used car. It's one of the biggest purchases in most people's lives. We seldom buy vehicles, so there's a high information asymmetry, price anxiety, negotiation stress, and the fear of being sold a lemon. Consider these two scenarios. At one lot, a salesman rattles off every feature of a car as if it's flawless. One owner, low miles, clean interior, yada yada yada. At another, the salesman goes through the same spiel and adds, just so you know, it wasn't an accident, and here's what was replaced. Who do you trust more? Honesty, especially regarding imperfections, is essential to increasing trust. Without hearing the flaws, your spidey sense should tingle, and hopefully the voice in your head asks, what are they trying to hide? To influence others, audience recognition is critical, and it's essential to gain genuine credibility. That includes trying to educate those who already agree. How even preaching to the choir can backfire. Recently, an author reached out asking me to review his new book on sustainability. Given my experience and passion for the topic, I was excited and gladly accepted. However, a strange thing happened as I began reading. My enthusiasm faded. I started skimming paragraphs and occasionally rolling my eyes. I quickly flipped through pages, recognizing the pattern in the book's critical omission. It only presented a single side of a very complex topic. The narrative was overwhelmingly positive, to the point of being nauseating even to an eco-minded believer. The author walked through a detailed, comprehensive roadmap towards sustainability, loaded with theory-laden insights and endless hypothetical scenarios. Yet, real-world examples were nowhere to be found. Every scenario unfolded as though sustainability transitions were Mortal Kombat-grade flawless victories. Those adopting environmental policies reaped countless rewards, while traditional shareholder capitalist businesses were punished and bankrupted. As someone deeply familiar with the nuances of this type of work across various settings, the lack of balance became a complete turnoff, even for a strong evangelist. Perfect stories destroy credibility. There are two significant problems here. First, the book's lack of real-life examples undermined its credibility. Purely hypothetical scenarios are fine for illustrating theory, but as anyone who's lived cutting-edge innovation will tell you, transitioning from the status quo is messy and complicated, full of unending hurdles. The theory makes sense. It should work, yet reality is far more difficult. When you're responsible for a 10-year transformation of a billion-dollar category, yet face quarterly investor expectations, KPIs impacting annual bonuses, and shifting consumer interests, the path to a perfect, innovative future gets much muddier. Responding to constant challenges makes the difference between success and failure. Neglecting to mention them entirely raises serious red flags. This credibility divergence of theory and practice is nearly universal. In my MBA program, we had two parallel classes on business strategy, one taught by a career academic, the second by an ex-McKinsey senior partner. While the academic approach was helpful, establishing a thorough foundation of key concepts like Porter's 5 forces, it was the experience of the guy who had been in the trenches, seeing the edge cases where theory breaks down, that provided genuine practical insight. Credibility comes from starting with a theory and exploring its real-world application, validating it across a range of scenarios, particularly highlighting where it doesn't apply, or how past mistakes refine tactics to increase the likelihood of future success. Back to the book, its unwavering optimism felt more like propaganda than guidance. Just like my hypothetical car salesman, when only one side is presented with no opposition, you can't help but wonder what they're hiding or even if they understand the situation. Reviewing the book, I wondered if the author ever really experienced these situations firsthand. Was the perspective one-sided because of an undying commitment to the cause, or was naivety driving the biased perspective? I mean, I spend a lot of time advocating for a sustainable future, and even I was like, sheesh, take it down a notch. The intention was well-meaning, as it is with any reputable salesperson. You want your customer to be happy and return in the future. Providing the positives is essential, but it's in the balance that you foster integrity. An expert practitioner learns and teaches from past mistakes, and like my McKinsey professor, the failures and challenges enhance credibility. When advocating only one side of a discussion with unquestioned, perfect textbook execution, we invite skepticism. Don't just take my word for it. Significant research supports this concept. In a meta-analysis by Mike Allen, he concludes that two-sided messages were more persuasive than one-sided presentations. He proposed that acknowledging weakness increased credibility and persuasiveness by reducing perceived bias. He referred to this as the discounted hypothesis, which backs up my book review perception. A purely one-sided presentation seems like the author attempted to force their conclusions on the reader. However, Allen indicates that merely sharing the opposing argument isn't helpful and can be even worse than a one-sided perspective. His work highlights the importance of not just presenting the opposing side, but also offering an explanation why they still support the desired conclusion. Let's return to our used car hypothetical to better understand this concept, called the importance of refutation. What would you think if the second salesperson said, "This car is perfect for you. Here's the list of amazing features. By the way, it was in an accident." Just mentioning the accident should raise eyebrows, inviting a ton of new skepticism. You're less likely to be interested in the car than if he hadn't mentioned the accident at all. Credibility is significantly enhanced by explaining exactly what happened, what was repaired, and that the work was done by a reputable mechanic. That's the importance of refutation. It's not just bringing up the other side, it's guiding the audience to the original conclusion that this is still the car for them without hiding critical information, building genuine credibility. While Allen's analysis was conducted in 1991, there's more modern examples of how balanced perspective increases trust. Take internet product reviews. Analysis by Northwestern University researchers found that people are more likely to purchase products with review scores of 4.2 to 4.5 stars than a product with a perfect 100% 5-star review. When everything seems perfect, we're less likely to trust the data. They showed that 82% of shoppers specifically sought out negative reviews. My experience aligns with this. I generally don't care about 5-star reviews. There's seldom anything valuable said by people who love a product. It's the less than perfect and negative reviews that are more enlightening. I often go directly to the 1-star comments to see if the issue is something that I care about or if the reviewer is an idiot or commenting on something completely unrelated. Online review articles often leverage this approach. Think of CNET articles reviewing electronics. They often follow a format including the good, the bad, and the bottom line, summarizing their findings, often including who the product is best for and who it isn't for. This offers a constructive balance, inspiring trust. It's this balance, knowing the audience and calling out who the product fails for, that helps confirm what's best for you. One last critical factor is the order in which perspectives are presented. Research shows that you should present the side you want your audience to agree with first, then follow with the opposing point of view. This taps into what psychologists call the anchoring effect. When people encounter a new topic, their brain grabs onto the first version of the story they hear as a mental starting point. Everything after that is compared to this anchor rather than evaluated completely on its own. Comparisons are less mentally taxing than learning something brand new. Imagine someone's first exposure to the plastic recycling debate comes from a YouTube video highlighting easy, low-cost recycling as the answer to sustainability. That becomes their mental baseline. Later, when they read about real-world trade-offs like funding challenges, technical limits, and competing priorities, say in an overly elaborate Substack series, they'll judge that information against the original perfect world, often discounting it as less important or less believable. By leading with your preferred perspective, you're setting that anchor before other voices have the chance. This highlights the importance of knowing your audience to tune our best approach. Tailoring influence, believers, skeptics, and the uninformed middle. The impact of order and the anchoring effect raises another question. Who exactly are we trying to reach, and what do we want them to walk away with? Take the sustainability book. I was a prime candidate. I was already well-versed in the topic, convinced of the need for change, and actively looking for practical, hard-earned lessons that I could apply in my work. Instead, I got a glossy, one-sided sermon. The result was me closing the book rather than getting any real insights. But for other environmental evangelists, the same one-sided optimism probably gave them a nice, green, warm, fuzzy feeling. It reinforced what they already believed, handing them quotable talking points, and sent them nodding along in self-satisfaction. That's the power of confirmation bias. We're all more likely to accept, remember, and integrate information that aligns neatly with what we already think. I deliberately fight that reflex, hence my skepticism here. And honestly, the reason this article or even whole Substack exists. But it's far easier and more comfortable for most people to keep adding bricks of alignment to their mental palace. What about a neutral party with no real opinion on sustainability? There's a couple competing phenomena here, and we'll ignore whether such individual would ever pick up this book in the first place. On the one hand, there's anchoring, their first exposure to the circular economy, and even if overly rosy, it could set a mental baseline that they'll use to evaluate everything they hear later. On the other hand, the lack of balance might trip their internal too good to be true alarm, just like our relentlessly cheerful car salesman. If they truly walk in with a blank slate, anchoring probably wins, at least until they start hearing more nuanced perspectives. Then there's the toughest crowd, people with a pre-existing negative view of sustainability. Here, a one-sided argument's odds of persuasion are near zero. Confronting someone with facts that directly oppose their beliefs often pushes them further away, not closer. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning, and it's one of the brain's more stubborn defense mechanisms. If you're not interested in learning, your mind will find all kinds of clever ways to dismiss what doesn't fit your worldview. In the case of this book, a one-sided sermon would likely turn disagreement into outright resistance. If your target already holds views you want to change, you need a completely different playbook that allows your audience to migrate towards your perspective on their terms. Dumping fact after fact they already reject is the fast track to failure. Dan Ariely's book, Misbelief, digs deeper into how and why this happens, and why the more effective path is often meeting people where they are. Influence hiring decisions with honesty. Honesty, through two-sided perspective, shows up in the hiring process too. Ask a candidate, what's your biggest weakness? And you'll often get the greatest hits of bad answers. I work too hard. I'm a perfectionist. To me, these are massive red flags. At best, they show a lack of self-awareness. At worst, they hint at a lack of integrity. Warren Buffett famously says he hires for 3 traits: intelligence, energy, and integrity. And while Meatloaf might sing 2 out of 3 ain't bad, in hiring, integrity is non-negotiable. Just like in persuasion, genuine self-awareness and honesty, even when uncomfortable, build trust and credibility. Selling yourself effectively isn't pretending to be flawless. You're not kidding anyone, particularly the interviewer, that you're perfect for this job. Leveraging the tactics from above, it means leading with your strengths and fit, anchor first, then showing you know where you have room to grow, and importantly, what you're doing about it. I'm great at in-depth analysis, but at times I can overthink an article on imperfection for way too long. Sounds like a much better answer than another "I care too much" cliche. No candidate is perfect. The best ones know their limitations, own them, and have a realistic improvement plan. Your secret persuasion weapon, imperfection. So, what do we do with all this? Well, if you want to be disregarded, untrusted, dismissed as naive, it's simple. Never admit a flaw. Stick to hypothetical perfection. Fill your world with roses and puppies and hand-picked success stories. Disclosing imperfection is for the weak, and then sit back and watch your audience happily take their trust and job offers somewhere else. Or you could take the more challenging yet effective route, balance. Influence demands humility. The more ambitious the goal, especially in something as complex as sustainability, the messier the reality. A compelling, believable story lives at the intersection of vision and truth, of theory and practice. By embracing that complexity instead of hiding it, you prepare people for the road ahead and earn their trust. We can't fear opposing views or pretend they don't exist. Doing so only strengthens them for everyone but the most naive. As overthinkers, we must know both sides fluently and guide others through the rocky terrain. Charlie Munger puts it best. I never allow myself to hold an opinion on anything that I don't know the other side's argument better than they do. This should be our standard. Strategically understand the whole issue, bring others along in our thinking, and wield the power of a well-grounded, two-sided discussion. To truly support your cause, honesty and transparency are the best sales tools. Be the used car salesman who points out the dent, explains how it happened, and hands over the repair records. In short, be Carfax forward in all of your interactions. That's how we close the deal. I'd love for you to subscribe to my Substack and join me in overthinking a variety of topics. If you find my work helpful, consider recommending it to others, perhaps with the recommendation that you've given me 4 out of 5 stars, to increase believability. Good insights, a little wordy at times. Thanks so much for listening.